listening to Stories from Real Life, a podcast by engaging storytellers for engaged story listeners. Here's your host, author and journalist, Melvin E. Edwards.
Hello again, and welcome to this August 20th edition of Stories from Real Life. I'm your host, Melvin E. Edwards. Let's find out about today's guest, Eriksen Dickens.
Today on Stories from Real Life with Melvin E. Edwards. Eriksen Dickens is a documentarian who captures memories, but not all films are for public viewing. Together with his brother, they produce legacy documentaries, which shine a positive light on businesses, foundations, or individuals. These films delve into the narratives of entities and individuals with compelling stories, preserving their legacies for posterity by providing an in-depth look at their life's journey. Eriksen, who holds a master's degree in psychology, applies his expertise to shape these narratives. He recognizes storytelling as the most ancient and essential form of communal communication. In today's episode, he will share his insights and discuss how we can pass our own stories down to future generations. Join us as we welcome Eriksen Dickens, alongside your host, Melvin E. Edwards.
Eriksen, welcome to my storytelling podcast.
Hey, Melvin, how you doing? I appreciate you having me on today.
I'm doing great. Looking forward to talking to you.
Same.
So I'm excited to have you here today because researching and chronicling family stories and family histories are among my own passions. So it'll be fun to share with the audience what you do. So let's get right into it.
Let's do it.
All right. So you got a master's degree in psychology and a bachelor's degree in philosophy, but your job is filmmaking.
Right.
How has that background helped you develop legacy documentaries?
You know, I get that question a lot. I tell people what I do, and then they ask me what I studied in college, because a lot of people automatically assume I probably went to film school, right? And I tell them, I got my bachelor's in philosophy, my master's in clinical psychology, and they scratch their head a little bit. But to answer your question, honestly, I feel like it's been tremendously helpful. On the philosophy side of things, philosophy was a lot of reading, a lot of writing, a lot of research, a lot of conceptualizing concepts and organizing things and coming up with critical thinking skills in general. So that has helped me a lot in terms of when it comes to pre-production for filming, for these documentary projects we do. And then on the psychology side of things, psychology is all about human behavior and why we are who we are, what makes us who we are as human beings. And these documentaries that we do, that's what it's all about. It's all very character driven. And so it's allowed me to really dive into these people's lives and understand them on a deeper level, what makes them tick. And it's helped with my interviewing skills a lot as well, just because I had to do a practicum for a year where I had to be essentially served as a therapist. So I had to really fine tune my interviewing skills and just generally learn how to hold the space with someone. So I can go deeper into it, but that gives you like a rough snapshot into how those two different fields have helped me.
Well, that's really interesting. So your company is with your brother. His name is Soren, and you majored in philosophy, as I just mentioned. It seems like your parents were also interested in philosophy, or at least in philosopher Soren Kierkegaard. Is that correct?
So there you go. Hey, there's the connection there with that. No, unfortunately, that is the only connection between philosophy and my family. In fact, when I started to major in philosophy, my dad was deceased at the time, but my mom, she really she didn't really know what it was. And so, but my mom actually, she was a board certified behavior analyst. So she actually did study psychology. So I kind of grew up around the psychology lingo. And that is what kind of propelled me a little bit to learn a little bit more about psychology. But in terms of philosophy, actually, my family was a little bit against it, just because philosophy is all about challenging your beliefs and kind of diving in deeper into things. And, you can get lost in it if you go down too many different rabbit holes.
It's hard to make a living at that, too.
It's borderline impossible.
Unless you got a PhD and you can teach a college course.
Exactly. I think that's the only thing. It's like, what are you going to be, a professional philosopher? No, I actually heard, it's interesting. A lot of a lot of lawyers, a lot of attorneys go into philosophy as their undergrad just because it helps with their argumentative skills. So that's what I've heard from that at least. But aside from that, I don't know what you do with the philosophy degree. Lucky I found something.
I don't know. There's probably a band you can lead or something.
start a cult or something. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So I'm sorry to hear that your dad died of cancer when you were about 14 years old.
Correct. Yeah.
And so is that the event that sparked your interest in legacy documentaries?
So not the actual event, but years later when my brother and I ended up at the same college together, that's when we got back into filmmaking. And we wanted to really test our storytelling abilities and really just kind of go for it. Like I said, we weren't taught in the classroom when it came to filmmaking. It was all learned by doing and watching lots of YouTube videos and stuff. So we decided to make a documentary and just go for it. And we wanted to do something near and dear to us. And so we said, why not make one on Dad's life? And so that was the start of a 1.5 year long process, essentially, of interviewing maybe 30, 35 people, going to a bunch of different locations, really just retracing my dad's life. And when we were done with it, we entitled it His Legacy. And it was a really cathartic experience for us. And we were really happy with the outcome of it and how it brought a lot of people together. And so we just started to think more and more about how we could replicate that process and implement it into our business as another vertical and find other clients that might be interested in this type of legacy style documentary.
Okay. So when your family saw it, what were their emotions? How did they feel about it? Did they feel like proud to remember your dad? Did they feel sad? A combination of a bunch of things?
Well, I can give you one specific anecdote from my uncle. My uncle was my dad's brother. And I remember the first time he watched it, he said, it made me feel happy, sad, angry, just all of them at the same time. And he said watching it was just like a full-on experience. So we got a lot of that type of feedback, a lot of different emotions. We actually got to premiere it in our hometown. Come from a pretty small rural hometown in the Central Valley of California, pretty tight-knit community. So a lot of people knew my dad. He was pretty well known in the community. So we premiered it. And about 300 people came. And it was really, really neat to bring all these people together. You know, in one way or another, my dad had impacted them. And it was a really emotional experience, and just to hear the different feedback from people of how my dad impacted them. And, you know, people were thanking me for like doing this film about my dad, which was neat. So yeah, it was just a really intrinsically rewarding experience. And we wanted to kind of chase that feeling again, but, you know, maybe help somebody else experience that same feeling as well with our skill set.
Well, that sounds really cool. So in addition to being a filmmaker and an entrepreneur, you were also a baseball player, an actor, an author, and a magician. So
it sounds
so who's Eriksen Dickens?
I don't know. I'm still trying to figure it out every day. It's just one of those things where I've always had a wide interest in things growing up. I was a really curious kid. My brother and I used to make movies as kids all the time, and that's where our love for filmmaking started. And I loved being the hero in the movies. You know, I was the hero, and so that kind of like got into some acting stuff, and I still do it. I have an acting class. I've taken improv classes in the past. I'm an acting coach, and you know, I'll get roles in some independent films once in a while, some short films, a couple other stuff. But yeah, it's just another outlet for me in terms of expressing my creativity, which has been nice. And what else? Baseball. Yeah, baseball was a huge part of my life. I feel honestly like my background as an athlete and being on a team sport really helped set me up pretty successfully for filmmaking, just because filmmaking is such a collaborative art by nature. It's all about working to polish your skills while working collaboratively with a team towards a specific goal. I played a little bit in college. I played 2 years in college, got hurt, unfortunately. And honestly, that is what led me back to filmmaking. So kind of bittersweet there.
Yeah, my son had the same experience. He was recruited to play in college and hurt his shoulder his freshman year and never actually got into a game. He was
so
rehabbing his whole freshman year, and he was just about ready to go his sophomore year. And he was an engineering major, and he just decided he just couldn't balance the two.
Yeah.
And had to give up baseball.
That's so hard. No, was he a pitcher?
It is hard. No, he was an outfielder.
Okay.
But he had weirdly hurt his shoulder at the end of his senior year in high school because the track coach talked him into throwing the shot put. And I can't believe I let him do that. He was the smallest shot putter who made it to regions. He was 175 pounds, but he was as strong as an ox.
Oh, he's got to be. Holy cow. Oh my gosh.
He was going up against these 230, 240 pound football players.
Yeah. I'm curious just because of my experience, but like, how was his experience transitioning from being a lifelong athlete to like not having that part of his identity anymore?
I think it was pretty easy for him because it wasn't his passion. Baseball definitely was not his passion. He was just really good at it.
Sure.
And I love baseball. So I'm convinced, and we've talked about it some since then, but I was convinced that he was playing because of me. And I didn't talk him into it, but I think he just wanted to do something that he knew I would enjoy. Mm-hmm. Like he was a soccer player when he was younger, and he was a really good soccer player. But once he got to high school, he decided he wanted to focus on baseball, made the high school team, and then was recruited and went on to college. But like I said, never actually got into a game.
Yeah, that's such a bummer.
But he's a mechanical engineer now, and so he's happy. And I'm happy.
Yeah, probably pretty successful. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, he is.
I can relate to that in a way too. Like baseball, I started to lose passion for it after my dad passed away when I was 14, because like he was my lifelong baseball coach. Like all my memories of my dad are associated with the baseball field. And after he passed, a big part of me kind of continued to play just because I knew that that's what he would have wanted, or it would have made him proud. He loved baseball. I mean, he had a baseball Bible. He was obsessed with it. So yeah, I can relate to that a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually saw in my preparation, my research for this interview, I saw a clip of you your freshman year of college when you were introducing yourself, and you said your favorite sport was basketball.
It's surprising, right? Yeah, you broke that one up.
I'm thinking you probably got kicked off the team. You got kicked off the baseball team.
If that doesn't sum it up, I don't know what does. But yes, exactly. Yeah, like your son. I mean, I was good at it. And it was a skill that I'd had my entire life. And so it just became such a big part of my identity. I didn't really know who I was without baseball. So that's why I stuck to it for so long. And I don't know, I'm just like, I'm thankful that when that was over, that chapter of my life was over, I was able to fall into another passion of mine that I'd kind of lost throughout the years. So it turned out okay.
All right. Well, that's the bottom line. Mm-hmm. So you're happy, passionate about what you're doing. That's important. All right. So this is a storytelling podcast, and I'm a writer, and that's how I tell my stories in written form. Okay. So how did you get into video production and filmmaking as your format for storytelling? Mm-hmm.
So I like to write as well. Like I published a novel back in the day, self-published. But writing was a really huge childhood passion of mine too, and early adulthood. But there's something about movies that always just captivated me. That visual storytelling, I feel like it just engages not only emotion in such a way that's almost unparalleled, but it has the most variables to it. You know, there's the visuals, there's the sound design, there's the acting or directing, there's the information, the messaging. I don't know. I was always really attracted to that type of visual storytelling. And like I mentioned, like it started for us as kids. And then when my brother and I ended up at the same college together, when we got back into it, we just felt like that was the most natural for us, and the most natural course for us to take. And we wanted to eventually make a living doing it. And we felt like not only is this something we're passionate about, but it actually can be something that businesses can and do utilize, right? A lot of companies that use media, video production, it's really growing in popularity. So I think part of it was also the practical side of that. But I don't know, there's just something about seeing a story unfold in a movie that I would just get lost in it as a kid. I would just get so transfixed in these films, and that just never really died in me. It only got stronger as I got older. So it just, to answer your question, just seemed like the most natural form of progression for us.
Okay. So I've written 2 books about my family's genealogy and personal stories. You can see one of the covers here. This one was about my dad's side of the family.
Okay.
And my other book was about my mother's side of the family. So could something like that or any grandparent's diary be turned into a film, or does it have to all originate from scratch from you and your brother?
Oh, no, absolutely not. In fact, we would almost prefer it if there was some type of biography written on them already. In fact, one of our latest campaigns, we do outreach to different people, different groups of people. In one of our campaigns, we were targeting authors of biographies, pitching them kind of the idea of whether or not this would be something they'd be interested in. Because transparently, it makes our job a little easier. We don't have to do quite as much due diligence and research. So if we come across somebody who already has a lot of documentation in terms of their life story, that translates really well to film. And it just becomes our job how to best display that visually. So that's super neat. Are they available on Amazon or anywhere?
They are available on Amazon. There are a few bookstores around Texas that have them.
Cool.
But it's easiest to find them on Amazon.
I would love to read them. If you can maybe afterwards send me the names to them or something, that'd be awesome.
Oh, absolutely.
Cool.
I would definitely do that. All right. So what's the greatest challenge with the preparation phase when you're making a documentary?
So I would say it's kind of twofold. One of them is, when we go into these projects about preserving the legacies of people, we realize it's a big responsibility, right? Because these people are trusting us with the preservation of their stories. And so we want to do it right. And so there's just that emotional side to it where we come to the realization before every project that we have to put our heart and soul into this, right? And almost kind of relive these people's experiences and feel their emotions and be there with them. Because oftentimes you can bring up a lot of trauma, whatever it might be. There's a lot of stuff that you can uncover during these pre-production process. And so a part of that in the past was I would get so invested into these people's lives to where it started to take a toll on me emotionally, just because I was so invested in their lives, and just so much would come up about that. And I would also, stuff would come up from my life because there'd be parallels between what I experienced and then what some of our clients have experienced too. So one part of that is just recognizing, I guess you can say, boundaries on my end and putting in the effort that it takes to really tell this story adequately without sacrificing my overall well-being. You can't pour from an empty cup, right? And then the other side of it, I would say, is just really diving into the person. If the subject who the story is about is deceased, that makes it trickier for us because we then have to become investigative journalists and really figure out how we can do justice to this person's life without that person actually sitting there and telling us the ins and outs about his or her life. So that just requires a lot of connecting the dots, interviewing different people, family members, business associates, whoever it might be that we feel like could help us uncover who this person was. Like I said, it's a little bit easier if, one, the subject is still with us, or two, if the family or association has done a good job preserving their story throughout the years. So it's a variety of things, and we've gotten better at it throughout the years since we first started.
Okay. So as I mentioned earlier, my guest today is Eriksen Dickens. So Eriksen, since we're talking about legacies and genealogy, I'm sure my audience will want me to ask you if you're related to British novelist Charles Dickens. And then the second part of that, because it's something I want to know, is are you related to Norse explorer Leif Erikson?
So I get this question a lot. I have throughout the years. And I like to think that I'm related to Charles Dickens just because, it gives me a little credibility and creativity runs in the family. But unfortunately, I have no idea. I have no proof. Probably not, unfortunately. But hey, it's one can dream, one can hope. And then Leif Erikson, that would even be more badass if that was the case. But no, I am of Nordic heritage. Like I have some Norwegian in me. But no, my dad just was really he liked the Viking history. And so that's where the name for me originated, Eriksen. But no, not to my knowledge, at least. Who knows?
We got to work on your storytelling skills. You got to say Uncle Chuck. Charles Dickens is Uncle Chuck from now on.
Yeah, I like that.
I don't know how we're going to make Eric Dickerson, or Leif Erikson work. We'll figure that out later.
Right away, get creative.
We'll do that post production.
Yeah, there you go. I love it.
All right. So you do something that you call personalized storytelling. So can you explain to me what that is?
Well, I think, personalized storytelling, it's essentially used, I think, interchangeably for us in terms of really helping people understand what the legacy documentary is. It is extremely personal. We had one client once say to us, after the documentary was finished, he watched it. He felt like he said in his words, I feel like I could pass away tomorrow and I would be at peace with that because everybody, they know my story now. My kids and my kids' kids and their kids will know who I was as their grandpa. They'll know what I've gone through. They'll know the values that I live my life with. And his only hope was that they learn something from his story. So personalized storytelling is essentially just used interchangeably for us to help people, I guess, maybe grasp the concept because, it's this type of offer that we have or this type of vertical. Sometimes it's kind of hard to get people to understand exactly what it is or what exactly is the use case for it. And so sometimes just the explanation process, it takes some time. It's a very high touch sales process to secure a project like this. And so everyone has a story, right? Everyone they've lived their story, but I think getting people to see their story in the form of a linear documentary and how it's going to unfold, getting them to see the impact that they've really had and reflecting on it. That's always really special to us to get people's feedback once they have seen it and say something like, I never even thought of it that way, but then seeing it unfold like that and how you guys put it together, it made me think about things differently in some ways. So, yeah.
That's really cool. So what kind of people are looking for legacy documentaries?
Mm-hmm. So we like to say, if you have a story and, if there's somewhat of a budget, we can work with you. It really depends. We have done these for entrepreneurs. We've done them for people who have since retired after, growing a business or some type of success. We did one for a gentleman who migrated here from Lebanon at an early age with $50 in his pocket. He went on to grow an empire through mobile. Just faced a lot of adversity in his life, and his estate wanted us to preserve his legacy through a film like this. We are currently doing one for a family foundation out of Texas, tracing the origins of the foundation, covering the backstory of the gentleman's life who started it. We've done one for a entrepreneur with cerebral palsy, successfully grew 4 different businesses. We did one for an athlete. We did one for elderly retired rodeo star, actually, which is really cool. So to answer your question, we've been privileged to be able to cover a wide variety of subjects. It makes our job more interesting because if you're consistently doing the same type of person, you kind of hear the same stuff and it kills the spark a little bit. But we've been lucky to do these for a wide variety of people.
Yeah, that sounds really interesting. So tell me what your 7-step process is in developing your specialized films.
Yeah. So in the beginning, when we were doing these, we were just kind of running and gunning, just trying to get footage. We didn't really have much of a backbone to what we did or a structure. So then over time, we started to develop this, we call it essentially like our storytelling curriculum, the 7 storytelling pillars. And it really serves as the backbone of our documentary in terms of how we're going to tell the story. So number 1 would be the history. So that first pillar covers the person's backstory, their history. Number 2 would be the person's passion. So what were they passionate about? What were they intrinsically motivated by? What got them out of bed, right? That one really humanizes them. Number 3 would be their process. So what is their unique philosophy in life, their approach to life? Number 4 would be obstacles. So the adversity that they've faced. We're really big on that one. We feel like really highlighting what someone has gone through, the challenges, just helps you. It always makes a story. I'm huge on conflict in stories. I feel like there has to be a healthy dose of conflict, or else the story isn't going to be as powerful. Your viewers, your audience, they're not going to be able to relate with you as much. So we're really big on that. The next pillar would be achievements. So that one's a given. They're key milestones in life, their successes. After that would be the impact. So the impact that they've had on their loved ones, society, their community, whatever that might be. And then the last pillar would be future. So if they're still with us, what's next on the horizon? What are the future goals? So we just found that not only do those 7 pillars help on our side of things in terms of, allowing us to know what we need to get to create a robust film, but then it also helps explaining to potential clients like what we'll be doing, and it helps them grasp the concept a little bit more, and they'll understand what they can expect from a process like that. But yeah, that's our storytelling curriculum, I guess.
Okay, that sounds good. So who would be your dream client or dream family or dream foundation to do a documentary on?
That's a great question. They're all my dream. You're
running for office, aren't you?
Yeah.
Go ahead and announce if you're running for political office today.
Yeah. How am I doing? I wouldn't say necessarily have a dream type of client. The one documentary really stood out to me, the one we did for the gentleman who migrated from Lebanon. I really love those stories, rags to riches stories, truly, like people who have really beat the odds and just overcome a lot of adversity. I mean, he was not set up to succeed. He lost his mom at a very young age. He was in war-torn Lebanon during the war. Just sad upbringing. And just doing that, getting to know about his life and everything he went through. I mean, that I would say if we can do another type of film like that, I don't know who it would be or, what their story is, but that I would say is, I don't know. I guess you can say that would be my dream avatar type of client. It's inspiring, and you feel privileged being able to sit in the same room as them and hear their stories and learn from them, so.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. All right. So I listened to one of your recent podcast episodes with your brother, and you discussed the emerging impact of AI in modern storytelling. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you recall that episode. Do you feel energized or more frustrated by AI's role in content creation?
It depends on the day, No, it's crazy looking at AI and how far it's progressed within the last 2 years now at this point, since it's been more available to the public, and we're seeing how it's really impacting a lot of creators and what they do. I mean, I'm sure you hear how AI is going to essentially replace the creative, regardless of the medium. So there is that side of me that transparently is a little bit fearful of that. I don't want to see a whole industry kind of get destroyed by AI. But then at the same time, I feel like it can also really enhance a lot of things that we're doing. We've utilized it in our business to, on one side of things, streamline our operations. It's helped a lot with post-production. It's helped with organizing. It's helped with researching, like writing project proposals, those types of things. It's helped us save a lot of time. So we can then, do more stuff that'll help grow the business. And then there's also some really cool things that we've been able to use from AI. Like, for example, replicating people's voices, cloning their voices. We are able to this one job we did, we took audio samples from a gentleman's voice who had passed away, and we were able to clone his voice, and we had him read a letter that he had wrote. So his voice reading this letter, which was just really, really neat and very emotionally impactful for the client's family. It's also other things that you can bring pictures to life now in a way to where it's like, I don't know if you've seen Harry Potter, but you see the pictures coming to life and stuff. And so that's just another example of a way that we've been able to utilize it. So I don't know. That's a good question. I ponder that a lot in terms of, what is it going to be like in 30, 40 years? Are we going to be just obsolete? Do humans and our creativity, are we going to even matter? I don't know. As of right now, I'm excited about a lot of it, but I'm also cautiously excited too. I don't know. Like, what are your thoughts? I know it's
my number one competitor as a writer. I've essentially been replaced by AI, and
which is
it's harder at my age. It's harder and harder to stay into the world of being a reporter, being an author, being a journalist. And because organizations think they can do it easier with by an artificial means.
Right.
And I always say, well, it can spit out the words, but it will never have the emotion. It'll never have the depth. It'll never have the creativity.
That's apparent. Like I'm pretty good at reading. I can read two sets of copy, and very easily I can determine what's human written and what's AI written. I mean, AI written for the most part, a lot of the times it sounds like somebody is just saying the same thing, but 30 different ways, right? They're just kind of regurgitating the idea or whatever they're trying to say. And when you read a human, what they've written, you can just feel that human touch. So I just hope that doesn't evolve to a point where it's like you don't know the difference. But I don't know. That's unfortunate. I empathize with you.
It's a challenge. So with the photos of someone, a still photo being able to be animated, for me, there seems to be a line between something being really cool and modern and something being creepy. Mm-hmm. Do you see that kind of a line, a dichotomy there?
Yes. Yeah. Sometimes cool can be creepy, and then sometimes it can just be straight creepy. Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's so many different things you can do with AI. Like another example is I can be looking at you, but my eyes can be like over here looking off screen. But then with AI, you can change it so your eyes can be looking at you the whole time. So essentially, I could be not looking at you during this whole screen recording, but then in post-production, we can tweak it so it makes it look like I was looking directly at you the whole time. So, it is. It's kind of creepy. Yeah, it is creepy, and I don't know. I think about it a lot. Honestly, yeah, I don't know.
I may need to start making horror films based on AI.
Yeah, for real.
Nobody will have to get killed. Nobody have to use any fake blood. You can just generate it.
Yeah,
computer generate.
I heard something Elon Musk just said recently. He said that he thinks that very quickly AI is going to get so smart to where it's going to get bored with communicating with us, and it's not going to want to communicate with us because we're just not even going to be anywhere near its level in terms of how it can process. And he feels like when we reach that point, he's also trying to sell a product or whatever. I think it's a Neuralink or whatever the thing is that he's trying to put in people's head. But no, yeah, I don't know. AI is it's trippy.
Well, I think we'll be on the same terms at that point because I'm already tired of communicating with AI.
Yeah.
So it'll just be a matter of the AI catching up to feeling the same way I feel.
No love lost. Yeah.
No love lost. Yeah, get off the scene, AI. Yeah. All right. So what are some practical uses for video production for businesses, specifically for businesses?
For sure. So we kind of broke it down on the agency side of things. Our company, there's like three main pillars of any business, right? There's their sales, there's their marketing, and then there's their people operations. And so when we're doing a job for a business, we like to understand what are actually the problems that you're facing in one of those three pillars. And then we determine what type of video they need. So if somebody's having a difficult time, maybe finding qualified talent, like employees, then they would need a recruitment video. And then we would determine, okay, how can we position your company as what that person needs? How is their lives going to be better by working at your company? So that's just one example. Another example would be maybe you're having a hard time finding new leads, sales. So then that would be a sales video. Maybe sometimes clients are having a difficult time spending too much manpower and time training their employees in person or one-on-one via Zoom. So hence a training video. So those are just a variety of different examples that businesses can utilize video production. Social content is huge right now. Short form deliverables, that's taken off aggressively the last 5-6 years or so. Businesses utilizing social videos. So we've had a few clients in the past that have wanted content shot in bulk, and then so they can leverage it for digital ads, digital sales videos, those types of things. And then on the other side of the spectrum, surprisingly, we've had a few clients interested in leveraging these legacy style documentaries for investor attraction, partnership opportunities. So as opposed to them wanting, say, a 2-hour long film that they just more so want to keep internally, they want something more digestible. So maybe a 10-minute film that they can share with potential investors or people who might want to invest in their business or partner with them. It gives people a high level understanding of who they are, their values, what they do as a company. There's a lot of different use cases for video production. It just all depends on, one, the target audience of the company, what they're looking to do with it, and then two, the actual problem they're facing. Because it's one thing just to create a sexy looking montage that they can just put on their website, but how's that actually going to benefit them? How's that going to help them? So we take the time to really kind of dive into that as a company.
Okay. So I just have a couple questions left. But before we go, I definitely do not want to forget to ask you, I want you to tell me about The Orchard's Offspring.
Oh man, that was that's my novel. I was always just really, I think it was because I was on a baseball team growing up. That was a huge part of my childhood, is being around a bunch of teammates, friends, very Sandlot-ish. And like I said, I loved writing as a kid. And so I always wanted to write like a novel. And so I started it when I was 17 years old. And essentially it was a fictional story about a group of friends. And long story short, the whole novel is about the eventual disappearance of two friends. So the whole story kind of traces back into 1965, Indiana, rural Indiana, explaining what happens to these two brothers. And I remember writing it, and I was able to I pulled a lot of stuff from my own life. Like I grew up around orchards, peach orchards. And so the setting of this novel was orchards. The two main characters are two brothers. And, I have one brother, and there's a lot of kind of parallels between these two characters and myself and my brother. It was a cool process for me. I worked on it for maybe 3 years. I finally finished it when I was 21, and then I stepped away from it and didn't really do anything with it. And then I revisited it a couple years later, rewrote half of it, and then I wanted to get it published. So I found a self-publishing company called Book Baby, and spent about 6 months getting it published. And that was my baby for a while, that book. I made about $42 total in royalties from it. So hey.
Just throwing up dollars.
Yeah.
So have you ever thought about making that into some kind of a film?
Oh yeah, honestly, like when I was writing it the whole time, I was picturing it on the big screen. I was picturing it, okay, how can this be a movie? And still to this day, I think about that. I mean, that would probably be like my ideal passion project one day. If I was able to direct or produce a movie based on my novel, I just think that'd be just the coolest thing. You know, it's not every, but a lot of authors, that's kind of their dream, is to see their work unfold visually for people to see. So yeah, absolutely.
For the characters based on you, who would you want to play you? What current actor would you want to play you?
Well, the kids are in the story. He's not really based on me, but there's parts of me in him. So I would need like a 15, 16-year-old actor. So I'd have to look into who's kind of hot right now in terms of bringing in tickets in terms of that age group. I don't know. I'll have to get back to you on that.
Yeah, I can't think of any either.
No.
Probably all the kids in Stranger Things or something.
Oh, there you go. Exactly. Even they're like in their early 20s now.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah, they're not kids anymore.
No.
All right. So before we go, I would like for you to tell the audience how they can get in touch with your company if they want to create a legacy video, if they want you to create a legacy video for them or for their organization, their foundation.
Yeah, you can reach out to me anytime. Find my contact information on our website, which would be dickensbrothers.com. Additionally, my email is eriksen@platinumpeak.com. Platinum Peak is with 2 E's. And then if you're more interested in videos for your company, our agency side of things, then you can find us at platinumpeak.com. So we've got a few different options there, and please don't hesitate to reach out if you are interested or you just want to chat, consult. Yeah, I'm a pretty approachable guy.
Okay, that sounds awesome. So our guest this week has been Eriksen Dickens. So Eriksen, thank you for joining me today and sharing your stories. It's been a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me, Melvin. I've enjoyed our time together. Thank you.
Thanks. So that's it for this week's episode of Stories from Real Life. Join us again next time for another great storytelling journey. Until then, don't forget to shine your light wherever you go.
That was Stories from Real Life. Join us again next week for another great storytelling journey. See you next time.